Erik Ten Hag is rudely replaced at Man United by Van Nistelrooy. Round one of the MLS Cup playoffs began in earnest over the weekend, and Barcelona absolutely ran riot in El Clasico. This and these and more here on the Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome into Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from everyone's favorite country, coming to you live each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be joined by the host of Sirius XM FC's Winalda Talks Football and the best soccer show, Mr. Jason Davis. How you doing?
That and these and all those things today on Morning Kick Around. Yeah, I'm ready, Robert. I see you couldn't let it sit. It had to be he was rudely replaced by Van Nistelrooy, just in case anybody missed what was happening there. The pun was not working hard enough for Robert to just let it go. I appreciate it, though.
Well, I will admit it was a dizzying weekend of sports and soccer in general. So just trying to gather everything in and funnel it into an hour's worth of morning kick around was quite an affair. But
Yes.
Before we jump into all that, how are you feeling? It is a chilly Monday morning.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Woke up to this news about Erik Ten Hag getting the sack at Manchester United. Should be fascinating to dive into that and consider what the heck is going on there. Weren't they supposed to be on the right track? New controlling ownership, we'll get into it. Otherwise had a pretty good sports weekend. I managed to watch lots and lots and lots of soccer, and there was lots of soccer. But also, I mixed in a little World Series. I don't think I watched any football. You know, that get put. Who cares about American football? What do they call that thing? Throw ball, gridiron? No, I'm kidding. I just didn't get any of that in. But my team won, so that's important.
No World Series for me, but even though there was too much soccer to watch, I couldn't take my eyes off of the Lions. They just were too good at the handball.
The Lions are good? Oh, my gosh. I cannot believe it.
If there wasn't a sign of the apocalypse coming, it's hearing the sentence of including Lions and Super Bowl in it. You know the world's about to end. But let's get into the soccer. And before we do, like and subscribe to the channel. We blasted past the 300 mark. Had a good weekend getting subscribers in the door. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button. Tell your family, your friends, create accounts in your children's names. Have them subscribe too.
I have an idea. I have an idea, Robert. I know we're approaching this momentous day in America. And, of course, I mean Halloween. No. I know there's a bigger day coming shortly after that.
Biggest day in my household.
Maybe you're one of these people that's got signs in your yard, or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have signs in your yard. And you're like, hey, I'm not that kind of person. I suggest a morning kick around sign in every yard in America. That's what I think we need to do to unify as a country. Everybody put your morning kick around signs out there, get our subscriber numbers up, and we'll all feel good about the United States of America.
There's people in my neighborhood comfortable with putting up political signs that says Wu-Tang is forever. So why not morning kick around?
Wu-Tang is forever. I'm not going to deny that. But yes, morning kick around. Do that. Yes, vote Kerr Davis 2024. Like that. Well, I see how our producer has decided our roles in that ticket, Robert.
But we want an equal ticket here. We're all about equality on the program. Hit us up. Contact mkickaround on social medias and on the emails, morningkickaround@gmail.com. I know everybody likes to write an email in their spare time. We've had enough fun. Let's get into the soccer. Hit it with the long balls. Long ball number one for Monday morning. We're all waking up to it. Erik Ten Hag rudely sacked at Manchester United.
Yes, I'm taking credit for that. Robert used it in his open there. Rudely sacked because, of course, as you mentioned, Ruud van Nistelrooy will take over at Manchester United. I don't know what our policy on cursing on this show is, but it could be any bleep Manchester United sacks Ten Hag. Something like that. This is obviously, or what was the other one I had, Robert? Manchester United Manchester United hangs Ten Hag out to dry. So you got a surfing reference for some reason in there. I don't know.
My original one was Ten Hag told to pack his bags.
Told to pack his bags. Yeah. Look, this of all things that felt inevitable in our world, this felt the most inevitable. It was coming forever. It was coming. Just what was going to be the precipitating event. And it turns out losing to a pretty poor West Ham United team is the event that finally got Erik ten Hag sacked. I don't know how to feel about this, all right, because I am by no means a Manchester United supporter. I do not back United. I mean, they were the team I love to hate, right? They filled that role that the Yankees fill in my baseball fandom, or that the Raiders fill in my football fandom, or Notre Dame fills in my college football fandom. I mean, they had that level of, again, if you were a supporter, you loved it. Or the Patriots for the last 2 decades in the NFL before things collapsed post Brady. You hated that they were so good and that they were so consistently good and that they were always in the hunt for a championship, and now they are a sad reflection of that Alex Ferguson past. And how many managers have we been through since Sir Alex retired?
So we're 10 years post Ferguson. We started with Moyes, Van Gaal.
Van Gaal.
Then we went to, was it the Carrick and the Carrick
that was
era?
So Carrick was before Ole Gunnar or after Ole Gunnar. See, this is the thing. Now you can't even remember. Now, obviously, if you're a United fan, you probably do remember.
I think it was Carrick, Ragnick, then Solskjaer.
Okay.
We were forgetting about Mourinho was in the mix.
No, I was not forgetting Mourinho. He's in there somewhere. He says the best job he's ever done as a manager was taking United to second, and he's still holding out hope that the Premier League strips City of their title that year and that he gets a winner's medal from his United days. So we went from Moyes. Okay, Moyes got sacked. Ryan Giggs got the interim tag, caretaker tag for 4 matches. Then Van Gaal, then Mourinho, then Ole Gunnar, who by the way managed more games than anybody on this list at United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did. Then Carrick, as you said, that was a caretaker situation. Ralph Ragnick, which was a weird, like, we're bringing in Ralph Ragnick. He's not actually our manager, and he's not going to stick around very long. But we're gonna let him, drive the car for a little while. Then Ten Hag, and now Van Nistelrooy will be listed as caretaker, interim, something else.
If you look at that list of managers, you got to say Ralph Ragnick is the most forgotten about era, and then probably Solskjaer was the one that probably had the most promise that they didn't allow to run out.
I mean, that's the thing about the Solskjaer period is how did it end? Remind me, Robert, how did it end in November of 2021? So we're talking about 3 years ago, effectively.
From my memory, yeah, it was a little bit ago now, but from my memory, Solskjaer was galvanizing the team. They kind of were good at beating bad teams. They were kind of starting to figure out how to beat good teams. They were getting some camaraderie. He was getting the United way back into the club. And then they brought back a very large personality into a fragile team trying to build their own identity. And then Cristiano Ronaldo was signed for reasons and kind of poisoned the locker room, and it really hasn't been the same since.
Yeah, signed for reasons is a good way of describing everything that United has done since Alex Ferguson retired. Things were done for reasons. What reasons? Well, we don't really know, but we're just doing things to see if they work, right? There doesn't seem to have been any sort of plan at all. This is a club that sort of they embody the formerly great club that has fallen behind the times. Now, I will say that I think it's probably fair to argue that part of the reason they've fallen behind the times is because their money situation was decidedly different. Now, they're a machine in terms of printing money on the football side or from their football activities. The fan base they have around the world is maybe second to none except Real Madrid. I mean, we could talk about whether or not that's the case, but regardless, that means money, right, comes in the door. But it seems as though City used the big injection of cash from their Emirati owners to bypass United. And once they figured out a system, and right, and you can talk about multi-club ownership, you can talk about scouting networks, you can talk about the infrastructure beyond just the football side or the on-field product. City has passed them by. Liverpool has passed them by. Now, a lot of that's down to the manager
Arsenal.
that they had. I don't know that I would say Arsenal's passed them by. I mean, Arsenal's having a moment now, right? Arsenal's finally back. How long did it take Arsenal to figure it out? It took Arsenal forever. You know, after Wenger left, and even at the tail end of the Wenger period, what was Arsenal but a fourth place team, right? That's what Arsenal was. They were a fourth place team, and obviously that's not where United wants to be, and yet they seem so far away from even that it's ridiculous. And Ineos was supposed to be the promise. Ineos was supposed to be the fix, and that hasn't happened. And maybe they held on to Ten Hag because it was the financially prudent thing to do at the time. But right now we're seeing that if you do that, it becomes a sunk cost fallacy problem. You are saying, well, we put all this effort into Ten Hag. He brought in all these players. We spent all this money on players that he had these connections to. Arguably, how many have worked out? One, I mean, could you say Onana's been a success? I mean, he's had so many bad moments in a United shirt that it's hard to argue he's been, you know, truly a success story. I mean, we can't even talk about Anthony because there's nowhere to start with him. I mean, it's just it's messy. It's messy.
I'm not sure if they got his fingerprints on him, but of new players coming through, the most encouraging ones for United fans would be Kobe Mainoo and Garnacho. And
Garnacho, I suppose he gets some credit for, but I don't think Mainoo is on Ten Hag's ledger. I mean, playing Mainoo, I guess is something you could point to and say he blooded Mainoo. He gave him an opportunity to play. Clearly, they're better as a team because they've brought Mainoo through. But that's not a signing, right? That's not a player that they went out that Erik Ten Hag was like, I vouch for that guy, spend $80 million on him, which is what they did with Anthony.
But it's been such a cluttered and confused, I'm using an American term, a roster build, because they're using Johnny Evans, who was half retired, is getting significant minutes as a center back in their team. So they've spent all this money on these various players, but there isn't like an obvious plan where anyone can see United sign a new player and be like, yes, I understand what's happening with that. If I remember correctly, Evans was kind of just brought on board as a character hire for, a preseason tour. He did all right, and there wasn't anyone better than him. So they kept Evans on board. I mean, if you have a team like that, if you are a world leader, you shouldn't be playing a upper 30s Johnny Evans for significant minutes.
They went out and got Matthias de Ligt, and that was supposed to be part of the fix there. I mean, Ugarte hasn't really gotten his feet underneath him. Lenny Yoro's been hurt, right? He's 18, but he's been hurt for most of his time so far at United. I mean, I'm looking at this. Xerxes, lots of promise, hasn't come good quite. These are recent. Mazraoui came in with de Ligt for Bayern Munich. I'm trying to find another name on this list that even kind of, okay, no, I don't see. I mean, I have to go back a little bit deeper. Again, this isn't just this season that you're judging Ten Hag on. And if we're talking transfer policy, it doesn't seem. I mean, how much of that is on Ten Hag? How much of that is on the football, the football program, the staff, the director of football, the way that these things are now delineated, Robert? Because it's no longer the manager controls everything. He's dictating all of the approach on the football side. Those jobs have been split up. And United has been a mess on that front for a long time.
Yeah, ever since Alex Ferguson, it's been unclear who is fully on top, and it seems like every manager has been at odds with the decision makers who aren't necessarily football folks the whole time. So it's pretty hard. I'm sure there was probably a manager that was equipped to handle this job more than Ten Hag, but Ten Hag never probably had the opportunity to succeed. I don't know if anyone could succeed in the current environment. And I'm sure that the feeling and the vibes in the club couldn't have been improved by 250 staff members being sacked within the last year or so. Like none of that is leading to positivity. And just two more points kind of before I relinquish. I want to ask you some questions here on this, Jason. Is Van Nistelrooy the proper succession plan? Have they waited like probably a year? We've thought that Ten Hag was going to get the boot, especially after finishing the lowest they have in the Premier League era. And when does that era of Manchester United being the commercial juggernaut run to an end? Because the commercial success is based on-field success, and they haven't had that. When do they lose that?
When do they dwindle away the support that they've built under the Sir Alex period that now is gone? Yeah, that is a question. I mean, it's been a decade, right? They haven't won. They've won, what, a couple of trophies? Ten Hag's won a couple of secondary trophies, right? The FA Cup. Well, there's a League Cup in there, something like that. Did they win an FA Cup under Ten Hag? I'm trying to remember. It doesn't matter. He'll point to his trophies and say we won more trophies under me than they had in the previous whatever managers after Alex Ferguson retired, and that's a fair point, I suppose. I mean, I think you could argue that Ten Hag's not the problem in this, that there is something bigger at work here. I do think you're right that there might be an issue with dwindling support around the world. I mean, they feel like. They feel like a perpetual motion machine in that regard because they did have so much success when the Premier League was on the rise to be the biggest sports product on the planet. They were winning championships, and that stands you in good stead for a long time after that fact. So I don't know that I think that was or that's coming right now. But you do absolutely run the risk of wasting all the momentum that you've had, because you can't seem to put a winner on the field. What was the other question, Robert? I was focused on the financial issue.
Yeah, the financial issue, and then so the firing of Erik ten Hag,
the succession plan.
Yes. Yeah, it was a slow churn, and I was thinking that they were taking their time to let him go after poor results last year because they were lining up their ideal candidate.
But who wants the job? Right. I think this is the issue. Right. What Thomas Tuchel, who now is England manager, was rumored to be connected to the United position. I think we had seen a couple of other names out there, kind of around the idea. Oh, they could go after this guy. I don't know what the odds were or what the odds are right now on a replacement, a permanent replacement for Ten Hag. I mean, we'll see how long the Van Nistelrooy situation lasts. I don't think anybody fires a manager and then goes, we have his replacement lined up right now. That's not usual. It does happen. It's not usual. I think there were, I'm trying to remember now, the last couple of weeks, I guess there were some reports that certain managers were talking to United even as Ten Hag still had the job, which is never a good situation. That's always bad. Oh, you're looking for my replacement? Well, I'm on the job. You haven't fired me yet. You haven't told me anything, but you're looking for my replacement? That's bad news. But the fact that nothing has materialized to sort of immediately fill the gap means they don't have people chomping at the bit to manage Manchester. That says a lot, right? What says most about Manchester United? Yes, their place in the table, the fact they can't score goals, all those things, but also the fact that nobody of note wants to manage that team. There are certainly managers who would take the job, but none of them reach that standard that United holds itself to. And I suppose if you look at that list of managers that we just went through, Jose Mourinho is one of the biggest names in the world and was on the job at United. Van Gaal, of course, rates there. You can argue about Rangnick, whose reputation and stuff tied to Red Bull and all of the things he did there, kind of messy, I guess. But and the fact that Ole Gunnar may have been not the most successful, but he lasted the longest, that's interesting to me because Ole Gunnar didn't have much of a resume before he got the job. He had the connection to United, and he had started his career back in Norway or whatever it was. I think he had one job at that point. And there was this, he's too green for this. He's too green for this job. They may have to go back in that direction. And they might do worse than Ole Gunnar at this point. They might do worse than that. I don't know. I don't know who wants the job because it feels like a poison chalice, as the Brits would say.
Yeah, winning the FA Cup definitely is the kiss of death for United managers. I think just about at least 3 of them won a FA Cup and then were dismissed. But chat, have your say. Who do you want to see as the replacement, the long-term replacement at Man United? Moving on to long ball number 2, the MLS Cup round 1 game 1s kicked off this weekend. Miami kicked it all off on Friday night with a 2-1 win over Atlanta. Brad Guzan keeping it close. It ended up a 1-goal game and a little closer than many thought, probably.
Well, I mean, yes, Atlanta United had come off the fairly dramatic and exhausting trip up to Montreal just to get into the series against Inter Miami. I watched pretty much all of that game from Fort Lauderdale. Messi was quiet, notably quiet in that game. Obviously, a good team like Inter Miami gets goals from other places. It's not just going to be not just going to be Lionel Messi. The first goal from Suarez kind of sets you up to think that this was going to be a rout.
Yeah.
And I really did
90
see that
seconds
coming.
in, wasn't it? 90 seconds in?
Yeah, it was so early, that goal. But sometimes that happens. You get an early goal and you're like, oh, this is going to be a rout. And then the game really just kind of slows down from there. Seba got a goal in the 39th minute, which was very nice. Very nice setup from Atlanta United. They clearly, they had something. They just didn't have the ball in Inter Miami's half very often at all. I mean, I don't know what the possession numbers were. 66% for Inter Miami. That's a solid advantage, but it was more than more than just possession. It was how the field was tilted. And so you can't argue that Inter didn't deserve to win the game by a significant scoreline. They didn't, but it doesn't matter because it's best of 3. It doesn't matter what your goal number is, only that you win. And they got it done in 90 minutes. They didn't have to go to the penalty kick shootout and risk any of that. So it is, and Jordi Alba is not the guy you expect to score the winning goal, but hey, you get them from all over the place.
Yeah, Atlanta, hadn't watched a lot of them this year, but they were surprisingly solid. They were not sliced and diced by any means in this, and credit to them. I mean, it was 1-1 for a good portion in the middle third of the match, and really kept it tight, kept Messi from running riot.
There were some very good chances that Miami wasted. So you could say, yes, Atlanta was in it, and it took an Alba goal, a very pretty goal from Jordi Alba to win the game. But there were some very good. I think I want to say Diego Gomez maybe had a chance or two that went begging that he would want back. Obviously set up Suarez for the first one, so give him credit for that.
Yeah, he was impressive. A couple off the bar, and there was a play where the ball went up and over and dangled onto the top of the net where the physics of it didn't make sense that it wasn't in the goal. I had to keep on clicking the 10 seconds back. And before we move on, I thought it was kind of funny, the half-hour buildup of this game. The pre-match presenters were all talking about how they have to just get through the first 15 minutes and weather the storm. And that was the whole game plan they had baked in. Brad Guzan, doubled down on that. And then they gave up a goal in the first 90 seconds.
Yes, right.
It was like, we'll scratch that up. Saturday night, not as close of a match. Ricky Puig and the Galaxy blast the Rapids 5-0.
Yeah, this game is interesting because it would seem to indicate this is going to be super simple for LA Galaxy. 2 wins, lock up the series, move on, get to the conference semifinals. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think obviously, look, you take into account the altitude and the advantage that Colorado has back at home. I don't know about the injury status of Georgi Mihailovic. That's a major, major absence for Colorado in this game. Without him, they had effectively no attack. 0.03 expected goals on the evening for the Colorado Rapids. Robert, I don't even know how you get to a number that low, but that's the number that they had. Yes, Joveljic twice. Nelson with a great goal. I mean, that sounded, John Nelson pops up with a goal. I think that was fullback to fullback on that sequence that led to Nelson's goal. Ricky Puig twice to seal it. When he is flying towards you as a defender, I imagine that's pretty scary with the options that he has. Galaxy look good. They're going to advance. I'm just wondering if they maybe lose one in Colorado before going back to Los Angeles to close it out.
I don't know if this broadcast was the same as Friday nights in Miami, but just they kept on reminding the international audience, these are only the first games. They're going to play more games. There's no aggregate score. We understand that this kind of doesn't make sense, but this is the first game.
It doesn't make sense. What else did we have happen in this round that doesn't make sense?
Sunday night, there was 2 games. It kicked off with Orlando getting a 2-0 win over Charlotte. And an LAFC with a tighter one, 2-1 versus Vancouver.
Yeah, good win for Orlando City. Torres and Ojeda with the goals for Orlando City. Watched a little bit of that game. Certainly thought Orlando was the better team. Charlotte had a couple of moments. I think if Swiderski had been a little cleaner, they might have been able to get something. Pep Biel got sent off. Had a chance he missed, but then got sent off late in that game. So he'll be missing for game 2 back in Charlotte, which is a blow for Charlotte FC.
All right. Moving back across the ocean, long ball number 3. Put on your traveling caps as we go to the El Clasico. The El Clasico? El Clasico. Barcelona's back. Big week for them. They get a 4-0 win over Real Madrid just a few days after getting a big win over Bayern Munich in the Champions League.
They look amazing, right? Hansi Flick is doing work. They've got this group of young, talented players that just seem unstoppable right now. I mean, it is one thing to win a Clásico. It is another thing to win it in that manner, so convincing a manner on Madrid's home pitch, right? To do it there. Yeah, I guess this does it feel like that Barcelona is now up there with a City? I suppose you would have had Madrid in the Champions League as a favorite. I don't know if that changes with this result, or the fact that they had to come back against Borussia Dortmund at home midweek, despite the fact that it ended up very good for them. Like I don't know that this says that Madrid is not good enough. I think it just says that Barcelona is riding an incredible wave, and think about the injuries they've dealt with. I was going to say barring a bunch of injuries, but they've already had a ton of injuries, Robert. They've already had to navigate all of that, and here they are. So I think this is incredible work from Hansi Flick, incredible work from this group of young players. I mean, I can't get enough Lamine Yamal. I can't. He's 17. It just astounds me. Every single time I see the kid play, anytime I see him do something on the field that seems beyond his years, which is pretty much everything he does, he gets on the score sheet with Lewandowski twice, Rafinha backing up that performance in the Champions League, gets the better of Vinicius Jr. Vinny Jr. probably will go win the Ballon d'Or. But Rafinha can always say, I had a hat trick against Bayern, and then I scored in El Clasico in Madrid and beat Real Madrid.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trope now, but what were you doing at 17 is a good question to ask when you see Lamine Yamal. Like, not only is he, the youngest player on the field, but he's pulling off, some moves that we haven't really, you don't see match to match. He is a change maker, and also he is handling the racial abuse that he seems to be getting almost game in, game out. There's some pretty gnarly videos of Real Madrid fans giving him the business, and he is dealing it with grace. I don't know if any 17-year-old should. I mean, definitely no 17-year-old should deal with that, but he seems to be dealing with it in a mature way.
It's not just. Let me talk about the playing side of it before we get to the racial abuse stuff. Which Spain, do better, please. Yeah. Like I visited Spain for the first time this summer. I love the place, but please stop it with all this stuff. It is, God, it's so bad. It makes me so upset. Obviously, what we had at the Madrid derby with Atleti fans and all the stuff that Vinny Jr. has dealt with. And here is Madrid fans whose player has been racially abused and has been part of the center of that storm for so long, going after a Barcelona. It just doesn't stop it. You don't have to do that, right? Okay, the rivalry can exist without that. The playing side, though, for Lamine Yamal. It's not just that he is 17 and doing this. Occasionally, we have seen teenage players being given an opportunity to play, maybe popped up in a moment, had a game or two, and then what you'll see is they kind of recede into a support role, right? And maybe when they're 19 or 20, a la Jude Bellingham, they start to become more central to what a team is doing. But he is 17, and he is a central figure, and he's playing week in and week out. He is in ink on the team sheet every single time Hansi Flick has a meaningful game in front of him. And I think that's the remarkable thing, that it's the consistency. You can get players who are 17 who can compete at this level on occasion, Robert, but to have a 17-year-old consistently do it, match in and match out, that seems remarkable to me.
Do you think there's been many young starlets get an opportunity at Barcelona? Do you see Yamal going more the Messi way and becoming, that great player for 20 years, or some of the other ones that have, petered out and not become, the main player there?
Does it feel wrong on some level for us to try to
forecast.
predict that. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be. I mean, he is a public figure. He is a soccer star. He is out there for us. I mean, this is what we do in sports, right? This is what we do. We debate things, right? We debate eras, we debate greatness, we debate this thing, well, that thing, coaching, decisions, everything. We zero in on everything. It does feel wrong because he is 17 and it feels like he's got this innocence about him. And it's like, well, if I say that he's going to flame out, first of all, it doesn't matter to Lamine Yamal if Jason Davis on Morning Kick Around here in the United States of America says he's going to flame out by the time he's 23, 24 years old. It shouldn't matter to him. But it still feels wrong on my part because I don't want that to happen. I mean, who would want that to happen unless you are a Madrid fan, I guess, and you imagine Yamal helping Barcelona win titles and Champions Leagues. I think in the modern moment, like there's always a chance of burnout, Robert, and there's always a chance of injury, and we cannot predict that. Mm-hmm. We simply cannot. But in the modern moment, there is a ton of pressure, but I think that's sort of countered by the fact that he's got a support system. I mean, Barcelona's been messy. Don't get me wrong; they've been a drama, but there's still a support system. There's still something there. Flick is clearly competent. As long as he's there, I think Yamal's going to be fine. I want to imagine that this is the next great player. Like this is finally the replacement for a Messi or a Ronaldo. Not finally, but this is the replacement. This is the next generation of that. But then again, Messi set such a high bar; it's almost impossible to imagine him reaching that. So where does he fit? Right? Is he more like an Eden Hazard kind of player for his career? Right? Great player, but not sort of like the pantheon. Does that make sense?
His greatness lasted for a shorter time. I mean,
yes,
right. I mean, the Messi and the Ronaldo, like there has been players that matched their height of output, but only for a short term. I mean,
right,
the difference maker are those guys. They were the leading guys for multiple decades, which is the unheard of part of their greatness. And then just one more point on this, I think Nate Lewandowski returning to form is notable too.
Yeah, no, of course, and he's obviously being invigorated by what Barcelona is doing. I mean, he's incredible, and Lewandowski keeps himself in tip-top shape, right? He's one of those guys. He's just he's a workout monster. He just plays himself into shape at that level, but he's obviously incredibly fit, which is helping him. I mean, there's that's a little bit of a problem for Barcelona if Lewandowski at his age starts to slow down dramatically and rapidly, or if he suffers some significant injury, because how do you replace him? I mean, they have talent, don't get me wrong, but they don't have anybody at that point of the spear kind of position like Lewandowski to step in. So yeah, that is something that Lewandowski is doing it again with this group of young players and all of that. But what I was going to say is I guess the kind of almost a ridiculous question to ask here, the one that seems way too early. And again, I don't want to predict he'll flame out because that seems bad and negative and harsh. But it's also ridiculous to how many Ballon d'Ors does Lamine Yamal win in his career, Robert? Go. That's
2.5. 2.5.
2.5. Over under is 2.5. Actually, I would take the over. I think I would take the over on that at this point. I think I might.
All right. Let's put it to the people. How many Ballon d'Ors will young Lamine Yamal go away? All right. Have at it, chat. 2.5 is the starting price.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it either. Spain do better. Let's just leave it at that. I know there's people being investigated, maybe arrests have been made. Spain do better, please.
Yeah, so Barcelona's best week in quite some time wraps up long balls for the day. Gotta say, like and subscribe, guys. Morning Kick Around on YouTube. We blasted past 300 subscribers, and we got to keep on going to get to that 50,000 in 2025. Let's get through to 400 by the end of the week. I think that's a good, realistic goal.
Let's do it.
Let's keep on going.
400, vamos.
And the show is on social media at mkickaround on X and Instagram. Let's pause for a moment, catch our breath, cool on down, because we're heading on in to today's hot topic. Monday morning, Mother Nature did stop Christian Pulisic from adding another goal to his amazing tally but there were plenty of Americans who did hit the score sheet in Europe and abroad. I'm going to start off with Pepe. He got two goals in a rare appearance for more than just garbage time. Pepe, 2 goals. Did you see this coming?
Did I see it coming? Yeah, this is what he does. Right, this is what it does. We go sort of weeks without Ricardo Pepi being a major factor for PSV Eindhoven. He doesn't typically start because of De Jong's presence there. De Jong's the captain, of course, so it's extra hard to pull him out of the lineup. But Pepi will get a start. He gets a start against PEC Zwolle. Is that how you do that, Robert? Zwolle?
Yeah, that's the one I have not
Dutch
said
people,
out loud before.
Help me out. It's ZW. We, as Americans, as English speakers, ZW is not letters I can put together easily. I think it's Zwolle, something like that. So he gets a start. And look, he scores twice. I will point out that it was 6-0. The scoreline was 6-0. Now, one of those was an own goal. Also, by the way, Malik Tillman got on the score sheet. So shout out to 3 American goals in that game. Absolute romp for PSV Eindhoven. But, of course, it's always good to see Ricardo Pepi score goals. And I think, the U.S. men's national team striker situation is so up in the air that you never look these goals, like you never look a gift goal in the mouth. Isn't that the old saying?
That's the classic saying.
The classic saying, you never look a gift goal in the mouth. And even if he's not starting, I would prefer him to start. Even if he's not central to everything that Eindhoven does, PSV Eindhoven does. This is still progress. This is still confidence. This is still building. Who knows? By the time we get to 2026, maybe Ricardo Pepi is the starting striker for some team in Europe, scoring goals at a 20-a-season clip, and we can all feel good about that. He is just also such an unassuming kind of kid. Like, he's still a kid, right? He still comes off as fairly young. 21 years old. He doesn't have that sort of take charge personality, which I think is a factor in how we view him with the national team, right? When you look at Fowler and Balogun, who has not produced at a level enough to just take a claim to the job and, he's the guy, it's 100% Balogun. Balogun carries himself with this confidence that makes you think, oh yeah, that's the guy. Look at him. Look at how he walks. Look at how he talks. Look at how he handles himself. He's fully confident. And that's what you want at that position. So I'm hoping that Pepi matures into that a little bit. He may always be kind of an unassuming guy, but I want him to kind of be out there like, yeah, I'm the man. I can do this.
PSV really starting to take over in the Dutch league. I moved to 10-0.
Last year, this is just replicating last year. They've given up 6 goals in 10 games and scored 35 times. Obviously 6 in this one.
Yeah. And I don't know if Zwolle, I'm assuming they are not at the top of the league, challenging. We've talked about it before that,
Zwolle, not swole is what you're saying to me right now, Robert. Yeah.
We'll have to get our Dutch experts in the chat to say who's right here. Is there more Dutch influence in your area in DC or up here in Michigan?
Oh, Dutch. I have no. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know any Dutch people personally. I don't think.
But we'll get our traveling caps on and go down to Italy now. The Milan game was canceled in Bologna.
Bologna, I believe. Yes.
Bologna. I said that. I said that, right?
That's what you said. Yeah.
So the week of rain flooded out the city. The stadium apparently too close to the flood zone.
OSCAR. What is it? MA. How do you spell that? Never mind. There's like
Bologna?
an Oscar Mayer. Isn't there an Oscar Mayer ad from back in the day? That's how you spell bologna. Anyway, so Bologna cancels this game or decides they don't want to give up their home match.
The mayor of Bologna was scared to have Pulisic in form come to their city.
Yes, probably that's what it was. But also, flooding was a thing in Bologna. Just what I read going into this match was that Milan was desperate to play this somewhere. They were willing to play, or they were hoping for like a closed door match in a neutral venue, right? So that they didn't have like not playing at the San Siro or not playing somewhere that would give Milan an advantage. Just play it because you look at this fixture list for Milan and for Bologna, both Champions League teams from Serie A, and it's just where are you going to replace this? Where are you going to make this game up? So look, weather concerns and the safety of people should always be paramount, but it does feel like maybe this was Bologna saying, okay, we're going to push for this to be moved later, even though that's not a great scenario, just because we don't want to give up any chance of getting an opportunity to play this game at home. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. But obviously, I don't know that hopefully it won't slow down Pulisic. Hopefully this is just a little bit more rest for him to be in good form through the end of the calendar year, because it's obviously been very good. Of course, he didn't play in Italy, but a couple of Americans did play in a very big match, Robert.
Yep, the kind of the banner game of the weekend in Serie A, a 4-4 tie between Juventus and Inter Milan, with Tim Weah starting and scoring.
Yeah, right place, right time. Tim Weah just kind of there on the doorstep to get that in. Weston McKennie with an assist. I think he probably could have scored. I think the smart thing would have been a shot, but it worked out, so it doesn't matter. You don't go, oh, Weston, why didn't you shoot that if the ball ends up in the back of the net through a teammate? I mean, I guess selfishly, I kind of wanted him to take a shot and score there. I think that was Vlahovic's the first goal of the game from Vlahovic. Weah scores the second, and then Gildes scores twice for Juventus. On the other side, it was a typical sort of back and forth wild Serie A match, but you don't usually see 4 goals on each side in Serie A because of the defensive prowess these teams usually bring, or the organizational prowess these teams usually bring to the
historically,
table. So,
at least.
yeah,
is that still true? Is it?
No, I think the tactical, the tactical understanding of players in Serie A is typically at a higher level, or it depends, I imagine, on what club you're playing in. But it seems as though there is more of that understanding of how to stop an opponent by using tactics than in a lot of places. So I don't know if you could say that Serie A remains, the Catenaccio capital. Like, I don't think it's necessarily that, but it is truly still a league that values those things. You don't just squeeze that culture out because, we've got to compete with the rest of Europe. But this one got fun. And I guess, you could argue that the draw was fair. And in the end, I'm sure Juventus is kicking themselves to miss an opportunity to get 3 points out of that. So you have Napoli on 22, Inter on 18, Juventus on 17. By the way, Milan down in 8th right now on 14 points. Of course, should they have been able to play that game against Bologna, and imagine they win that game, that would have them level with Juventus in the table. Things are tight, is what I'm saying. Things are tight in Serie A.
In other American performances in England, Anthony Robinson played for Fulham. Haji Wright scored in the championship for Coventry, and this should be noted, the return of Tyler Adams. He made an appearance for Bournemouth.
Yes. How excited do we get? Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you that Tyler Adams is playing soccer again? Because I think the thing that we don't want to do as American fans is get our hopes up.
Yeah, because it's a push pull. It's a push pull with him because he's back. Oh, he's gone. Oh, I mean, because we could get a report as we're on today that he got a knock in that game and he's out again.
Right, but that seems unfair to just presume the worst. But of course, that's what history tells us is going to happen. So I understand what you're saying, and what I guess what I'm asking is, can we even allow ourselves to be excited from a national team perspective?
So it hits my radar.
Back.
It hits my radar, obviously, that Tyler Adams is back. I'd rather have him playing than not playing, obviously. And we want to see him back to his best and contributing in the Premier League. He's had a couple moments where he gets onto the world stage radar. I mean, he scored in the Champions League and he made the move to the Premier League, and he is on the he's to the stage right of big time. You'd almost think, and so I would say I'm a 4. Because I am excited that he is hitting the field once again, but it's a measured excitement. So
I think that's
just below midway.
Yeah, look, I'm a big Tyler Adams fan when he's at his best. I think that there are things about his game that I don't love all the time. That mainly his inability, it seems, to move the ball up the field when he recovers it. But that defensive work rate, his ability to recover the ball, is so impressive that you're kind of just, let's get him back. So we've got an international break coming up in a couple of weeks.
Don't say Robert. That. Don't say
it's happening again. Oh, yes, I know. They're doing it to us again. But in November, we've got another international break from the 11th to the 19th. Mauricio Pochettino is going to call up his team for the United States men's national team, Nations League games against Jamaica, home and away against Jamaica in that window after what we've seen with the rankings following that last window. If you're picking the U.S. men's national team, right, and you have to imagine that Johnny Cardoso is healthy. You have to imagine that Luca De La Torre is healthy. You have to imagine that Aiden Morris is healthy and available. Knowing the team that they brought in, if you were taking your best team, would you call up Tyler Adams for one of those 23 spots going to Jamaica and playing at home?
Would I call him in there? Whew, that's a toughie. I mean, I would love to see him play, but you want all the call-ups to be justified. So if there are other players playing more than him, getting more of a run out, I wouldn't. I'd let him try
but that's not
to
what
get
the
in.
national team is, Robert. The national team is not who deserves it most. It's who fits the team most and whom Pochettino believes can help the team most. And if Tyler Adams has played all of 30 minutes of soccer by the time we get to that window at a high level, but is 100% fit by everybody's estimation, the staff at Bournemouth, the U.S. men's national team staff, maybe he flies in and gets checked. How can he not be in your team based on what he can do when he is fit?
But I'm going to have to hazard a guess. I would almost say no, because it seemed like in our first window with Pochettino, he seemed to have a player health and club kind of he was definitely had that in mind, what the players needed, like sending Pulisic back so he had more travel to be back with his club team, and then players that got knocks got sent home. So I almost say if Pochettino values Tyler Adams the way we think or we hope he does, that he would let him stay and remain healthy and grow into that role at Bournemouth.
Okay, no, that is a fair statement. If these were World Cup qualifiers, which we know the United States doesn't have any, maybe he'd be in the team. Yeah. These are Nations League games, and obviously the United States wants to defend their Nations League title. But they're the only country to ever win the CONCACAF Nations League. I'd like to keep that up. That'd be nice. Let's just keep that domination going. But because these are not the same level of value, they're not as important as maybe the last handful of games before the World Cup, regardless of qualifying. You're right. Perhaps the better thing to do, the prudent thing to do, is to leave Tyler Adams back at Bournemouth, let him train, let him be fit and healthy, and avoid the travel.
In other kind of odds and ends for Americans abroad, in France, Tanner Testament went 90 minutes for Lyon. Mark McKenzie played for Toulouse, and Balogun continues to be out. And Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty played for Celtic for the full 90 against Motherwell, and various other folks made some appearances. And in North America, again, Zendejas and Club America beat Brandon Vasquez of Monterrey. So Americans all over the world in action.
That's what we do. We're like, well, I don't know. I was going to be somewhat negative there. We're like cockroaches? No, I don't know. What are we? What are we like, Robert? That's terrible. I didn't want to go in that direction. I don't know. Couldn't think of anything else. What spreads that's good? What spreads all over the world that is good? Or all over the place that is good?
Spreading like goodwill. Or we could say the Americans are becoming omnipresent in world football.
That's just a word. I'm talking about an analogy. I would like an analogy to use to describe Americans. I mean, I'm looking right now at a story from Diario that says, or AS rather, that says U.S. men's national team players are making Italy's Serie A their own. This is a story about how Americans are just taking over in Italy. Last time we did that, we had crazy generals leading. Never mind. Let's move on. Let's go on.
All right. Once we reference World War II generals, that means the end of Hot Topic. Be sure to like and subscribe to Morning Kick Around on YouTube.
Yeah.
And hit us up on social media, Kick Around on X and Instagram. Fill us in with your thoughts on the comments, and the best ones get on screen. Let's take a moment, come right back with segment 3, another installment of American Soccer Being Weird. All right, United States soccer, why are we doing this? Teams that have grown their history, getting a fan base, making connections in the community, and for reasons, we go ahead and change it. It was announced just last week Chicago Red Stars of the NWSL are going to change their name to Chicago Stars. And what do you think of that, Jason? Is this going to make Chicago's professional women's team, bigger in their market because they've taken the word red out of their name?
I can't see how. Can we see the change, the before and after for this logo? I mean, this obviously illustrates the change of names too. So before, Chicago Red Stars, reflecting the flag, right? The municipal flag of Chicago right there with the stars. After, keeping that star, that red star, but dropping red. There's other design people have gone crazy over this because you're not even centered. The stars isn't even centered properly over the ball on that right badge logo. The explainer for this is hilarious. It says the ball representing soccer. I think the dark blue represents land and the light blue represents Lake Michigan. It's so weird how they justify some of this stuff.
For those who don't know, the Chicago Red Stars are called that because Chicago has 4 red stars on their city flag.
Yes.
In
right.
2008, upon the creation of this team, they took a poll or a vote of, the fans got to vote for their team, and the clear winner and the most popular was Red Stars to represent their team. And so when asked why this change was being made, the Chicago's chief marketing officer, Kay Bradley, said, "People often shorten our name to Red Stars, and then the Chicago part goes away. So by removing red from the name, the short version will now become Chicago Stars so that we keep the connection to the city."
That's weird.
Does that justify any of this? I mean, this undoes like the chants and the memories and everything that's been built on for.
I don't understand that
years.
logic. You're saying it's so important for you to be identified as Chicago that you're changing the name of the team. Won't people? First of all, think about the people who have tattoos. Why aren't people considering all the tattooed soccer fans out there who now have a logo and a name on their body?
A dead brand.
No. It's dead, and now what is that? Oh, that's the red. That's my soccer team. I don't ever heard of that team. Oh, that's because they changed their name. Nah, come on, this is atrocious. What this is? No, I think in terms of, I mean, it is bad on that level. I don't know. It feels like a lot of times this is. I mean, clearly this is overthinking, right? Clearly this is thinking that changing your name, or changing your badge, or changing your color scheme is going to somehow unlock a fan base that has never paid attention to you before. It's the only thing I can imagine. And it also clearly takes for granted the people who already support you. Right? It takes for granted the people who have tattoos, or the people who have come out to your games and created the chants and created the banners and the tifo and done all the work. Right? Because those people are connected to who you are originally. And then you say to them, yeah, you don't matter as much to us. And look, there's always a way to say this is no longer modern. This is no longer the trend. This is no longer what people think is cool, right? That's what this is. Do you think that this name is cool or this logo is cool? Well, it's 2024, and we created that in 1998 or in 2008 or in 2015, and times have changed. We've got to change. But that's not how sports are supposed to work. The most iconic symbol of America outside of our country, like when you travel, that you find around the world. Robert, do you want to guess what it is? The thing that you see most that connects to America when you travel? Give me one guess. I bet you can get close.
The pot belly on a tourist.
No,
I'm talking
sport.
I know, I'm joking.
Sports. Okay.
The American flag?
No, not the American. Like, people wear this. Foreigners, not
New York Yankees hat.
New York Yankees hat. Bing, bing, bing. There it is. And have the Yankees ever been like, you know what we got to do? We got to change this. This is so old fashioned. What is this? The N and the Y, they're all weird and slanty. What were they thinking back then? We really needed to update this. The Yankees might like slightly change uniforms from season to season, but they're not messing with their history, right? Because they know it matters to so many people, and it's got this connective tissue that goes way, way back to, and you
could go to like Asia You could be in the middle of rural China and you have a
Yes.
Yankees hat on. They could say,
Yes.
"Oh, American
Yeah,
Yankees."
and the only way to get to that, right? And this is true for, I mean, I remember when Juve did their rebrand and people freaked out. And maybe Juve has been proven right on some level because the J is definitely an easier thing to connect. Because what happens with Serie A is you end up going, is that Juventus or is that which one of the clubs is that? And then Bergamo, Inter, whoever it is, you're like Inter Milan has changed theirs too, right? They did a rebrand.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, can I tell what that is? Man, I don't know. I don't know. It's the name part of this that I think bothers people the most, right? Even more than the logo.
Yeah, I was gonna say the tweaking a logo doesn't change the identity of the entire thing. They didn't call Juventus like the Juventus black and whites now or
Yeah,
something
you're
like that.
right.
They didn't
Yeah.
change the whole naming of it because I mean while okay, so maybe they want to refresh the badge. The Red Stars badge might not blow anyone's hair back, but they did have I covered the team for a couple years like 2015, 2016, followed them for season. They had great merch. Like their kits, their uniforms, all that stuff was great.
Why
And
would
then
you want to go from a name that is unique? I mean, I know there's Red Star Belgrade, right? And again, this definitely feels related to some sort of, oh, this is communist imagery. Red Stars are communist imagery.
but if you knew anything about Chicago, you wouldn't feel that way.
Exactly. But this is them thinking globally instead of thinking locally, but then
Yeah.
thinking that the global is impossible. That's an impossible nut to crack with Red Stars, which is insane. Because again, even if people go, "Oh, Red Stars, what is that, a communist thing?" It's not going to if as long as I don't know. I just can't imagine that's going to keep you from having the success that you want more than changing your name, dropping the unique element of your name to go with something so generic that it makes me cry. Like, it's sad that they are now Chicago Stars. I mean, what is that? That's nothing. That's if you were if you were thinking of, okay, like, I want to create a soccer team in some random video game, the easiest thing to do, the simplest name, it takes no creativity, is to go Stars, right? They're just the Stars. I mean, I think I've played with that team in like different Nintendo games from my youth. Like that's
Yeah,
terrible.
there's across different sports and different levels of soccer itself, there are examples of teams being stars. In the United States, I can't think of another Red Stars. And
Why
then
would you pay somebody to say, you know what you should do? Drop the red and just be the Stars. That's the way to go. That takes no creativity. It takes no innovation to do that. It takes, there's nothing in it. And again, you're stripping out identity that people are attached to. And even if you're imagining that you're scratching the surface on soccer fans who might care about your team, to go generic, I think turns more people off than it will get them through the door to say, yeah, I'm in for this.
yeah, you're overlooking the small but loyal fan base you've developed over the last 14, 15 years. You're already like looking past them, and then you're undermining what you've already built, sweeping that away. And then it's just, and then also when you're announcing this, you're announcing that the NWSL regular season is reaching its conclusion soon. And then
Yeah.
so I think the Red Stars have qualified for the playoffs, which they didn't do last year. So the team was, getting a little bit more successful this year than last. And then now they have to perform as the Red Stars, knowing that their identity is being pulled from them during all this. Maybe does it galvanize them?
Yeah. Do you think that this is also an attempt to clean up the history, the negative stuff that came with Roy Dames and all of that, and the previous ownership? I mean, this does feel like that too, right? That this is the current ownership group saying, the new owner saying, we don't want to be attached to that at all. And here's a way that we can feel without dropping every element of our history, every element of our identity. Here's a way to execute a clean break or something like a clean break.
If you're gonna, I think if you're gonna hire marketing firms and do research and hire people to, refresh your brand and move forward, I think you could maybe highlight the great things that you have done. They've had some great players. They've had Kristen Presses. They've had Sam Kerr. They now have Mal Swanson. You could, I don't know, emphasize the positives of what you have and what you have done and who has been in that jersey in the past, rather than trying to almost play like a disappearing act, like, oh, don't worry about that. That was yeah. So you sweep away, you're trying to get rid of the Rory Dames and the that whole era, but there are positive things about that. You built a fan base based on
Yeah.
that era,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
here's kind of a bit of a tongue in cheek. Maybe the Red Stars ownership and the boardroom folks wanted to get in on the bad Chicago rebranding, and like the Chicago Fire had so much fun with their rebrand of the rebrand of the rebrand. Maybe we need to get in on that.
I
And
mean,
this is just to fire people up right now to get some more attention.
That is next level thinking. Like how meta are we now? Where it's like we're executing poor rebrands so that we can fix the rebrand so that we can generate more attention that we would not have had unless we had executed a poor rebrand to start. I mean, the mind starts to turn and twist in different directions. I actually thought that a little bit with Boss Nation. I think I maybe mentioned that on the show when we talked about bad soccer team names last week, Robert, that what if this is all like performance art or some sort of attempt to do exactly what you said, that, hey, we're going to throw something so bad out there. Everybody's, not just soccer people, not just NWSL people, not just sports fans even, but this is going to make headlines in places we could never reach in any other way. And then we're going to be like, nope, joke's on you. We're actually changing it to something good now. I don't think that's what's happening with the Stars. Could still be happening with Boss Nation. Yeah, I don't think that's what's happening with the Stars.
The flippant nature of it too, because you read through the those answers and jargons of why they're doing it, doesn't nothing really lands. And then on the social media presence, I think it was Meg Linehan made the point of even the social media, like there wasn't like a banner graphic at the top with the new logos, and it was like off-centered, just like the logo itself is off-center. So if you're going to do this that affects so many people, but not actually do it well, just like Boss Nation, like you got everyone all excited. And this is like, you hired people to do all this and put all this work into it. And that's the product. I mean, it just doesn't, I guess it's a good job if you can get it to just, put things out there, but not. Look, these marketing brands are making mint here.
If you need a bad rebrand, Morning Kick Around is here for you. Our experts. Our experts can help you execute a poor rebrand. Just hit us up, morningkickaround@gmail.com, and let us know what kind of bad rebrand you want to do. And Robert and I will put something together, like half an hour, right, Robert? Like half an hour we can do that.
I am definitely capable of making a bad logo on a graphic design editor. But
let's go.
All right,
I got a Canva Pro account. Let's go. Let's go.
I bet, yeah. Put an hour or two into it. I bet you could, get the rebrand of the rebrand for the Red Stars going.
So let's do it.
Then we should before leaving this topic, there was on top of the Boss Nation, the Seattle Reign undid their rebrand. Shouldn't let them. So Chicago or Seattle Reign became OL Reign last year, but at the beginning of this season returned to Seattle Reign.
Yes.
So there is a precedent for the undo of the redo.
But I think the Reign situation was mainly about ownership, right? That Leon had bought the Reign,
right,
and then changed them to OL Reign to line them, which makes no sense why you want to have this American club with the French reference. Doesn't make any. I mean, we know Lyon is a power in women's football in Europe. Yes, okay, but it just made no sense. And now going back to Seattle Reign, that is much better. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, but there is. You're right, but that's the thing. Like, stop changing it. Like,
just be who you are.
Well, it's again, this is the thing of new ownership, new management justifying some things or finding things to do or wanting to find a way to break or to establish their reign, right? Not to double up on the reign references, but basically to make it feel like, hey, we're in charge now and this is how things are different. And not only are things different with our on-the-field product or our in-stadium experience or whatever else we think we're bringing to the table, but you will have a visual cue that this is different. And I just, I will say Joe Mansueto was wrong. I think the Fire were wrong when they executed their really bad rebrand and had to backtrack and find Matthew Wolf and fix it. But one thing they said was people get used to things. and they get normalized. And that is true, right? Eventually, you start to stop caring that the Utah Jazz are the Utah Jazz. Like you just kind of accept that that's a weird connection. Like what does Jazz have to do with Utah? Nothing. But they made it their own, right? They threw mountains on the logo, and now they're. But so I don't know, like that thing of like trusting that fans will adapt, that the marketplace will adapt, that people will accept you, that kind of even being quote unquote bad on the surface can be a strength in the end, that you can turn that weakness into a strength. That's what these clubs need to be doing, because one thing American soccer is extremely bad at is trusting ourselves to actually just be what we are as a sports culture, as a soccer culture. Ours can be different. You don't have to slap FC on everything because that somehow gives you European cachet. First of all, it doesn't. Second of all, just be who you are, and your fans will find you if you win games, if the product is good, if the experience is good. Period.
Yeah, being comfortable in your own shoes, being comfortable with naming yourself after something you may or may not agree with. Yeah, Luke hopping in the chat, but I love the beautiful lakes of Los Angeles. But they had the confidence to just rock with it. They didn't have social media having people yelling at them.
That wasn't confidence. That was just like, we're too cheap to change anything. We still have these uniforms from Minnesota, so we're just going to keep wearing them. And then eventually people in Los Angeles are like, yeah, man, the lake show, it's awesome. That's how that's supposed to happen. Like, stop. Just trust yourself, please. Or trust the brands. Trust the names. Don't call them brands, first of all. Trust your identity. Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
Soccer, believe in yourself.
I like that. That's a good note to end on. American soccer, believing in yourself. If you want to hop into the chat, be free to do so. You want to hit us up on social media, MKickaround at X and Instagram. Like and subscribe. Morning Kickaround, for cripe's sake. We're blasting past 300.
Can I interrupt your promotional activities here for just a second and say, like, we are in the beginning stages of the journey on Morning Kickaround. We got more things coming. We're going to be bringing in hopefully some guests in the near future. We're going to have ways for you to help support the show so we can make it better. I'm toying with the idea of calling our supporters MK Ultras. I don't know if anybody likes that or not. There's a double reference going on there. That could be we could workshop that. I think it would look great on a t-shirt. But Robert, continue, please. Thank you.
I definitely like the t-shirt idea. Vote for Kerr Davis is another set of t-shirts we can work on. And then putting up posters in your yard, that's another good idea. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your children. Like and subscribe to Morning Kickaround. So MLS playoffs continue, and I'm sure there's many more games to talk about in the future. So I'll see you Wednesday, and until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.